Joining us today on the Star Mechanical guest line it's his second appearance on the show, so he's officially a friend of the show. Louie Debrusk joins us. Louie, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing today? You
Really
excited
good.
for tomorrow night?
Beyond excited for
Yeah.
tomorrow night. Are you kidding me? We're doing the show from a boat out at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. We're having a absolutely great time getting set for Game 6. How have you been enjoying things from, I mean, I guess, you're not on the broadcast, you're not working, you're just kicking your feet up, having a beer and watching the oil?
Not used to having this phone sideways here. You know what? Exactly. I'm pretty chill, to be honest with you. I'm watching the games at home and going along every single second, every minute of the games, and hoping these guys can get it done. It's been a nice comeback to make it a series and really push the Florida Panthers. I mean, after an 0-3 deficit to start the series, statistically, you look at it and go, hey, this is not going to be good. But to their credit, they buckled down, made it game by game, and found a way to win two. And they'll need to win three to push to seven. So, yeah, I've just been taking it in, enjoying it, and golfing a little bit, but at the same time, enjoying the buzz around the city right now. That's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, you're talking about the comeback here in this cup final, but the whole season, and you were there every step of the way, the whole season was an unbelievable comeback from what they went through. And when Liam and I were down in Florida for game one, we were asking all the guys, like, what was the moment in the season where you felt like you got their swag, where they felt like they got their swagger back? And they all said
Yeah.
it was the game against Washington when they won 5-0. Was there a moment for you, again, following this team and being around them as closely as you are, where you were like, all right, this is getting turned around now?
That was the time for me too. I agree with you. I think it almost got to a point, guys, where you just saw the team, and I know Jack and I have talked about this at length about the eye of the tiger. We joked about it a little bit, but when they came into the building that night, they had lost a tough one in Carolina, and you could just see there was some video of them walking down the aisle, and there was just a look of intensity on their face, like, you know what, okay, enough's enough. We've had enough of this. It's kind of been trying to get ourselves back on track the entire season. It was still early at that time, but it was late enough and enough games had been played that they knew that if they didn't turn it around quick enough, that it could seriously go the other way and spiral out of control. So they came into that game, and I think that was the first time after losing three in a row, since Knobloch had taken over, that it was okay. We need to start buckling down and playing the right way. They came out and beat Washington, and as we say, the rest is history. They went on to win 8 in a row, 16 in a row. They just had an amazing season. It was a season where they found a way to put bunches of wins together. They limited their losses. They were in a lot of games, and it was the way they were playing the hockey for me was just the biggest change, and just attention to detail. They started to buckle down, be a harder defensive team to play against. And I don't think that gets talked enough. I really don't. I think now, obviously, being in the Stanley Cup final, people have really started to take on that mentality of when they defend and when they play hard and stingy, they have the offense to win hockey games, but it's the defensive game that has been really impressive for me over the course of this year. And something they had to work on. Let's face it. If they wanted to win, they wanted to get themselves to this position. That's what they had to do. But no question, that game in Washington for me was the stepping stone. It was the turning point. And you know what? They haven't looked back since, and they're still in the Stanley Cup final.
A big reason why they've been able to get back into this Stanley Cup final in terms of getting into the series. Connor McDavid. I mean, what he's
Yeah.
doing right now is absolutely insane. And again, you got a front row seat to it so many nights in the regular season. How special is it when you see him just click into those video game like modes that he's currently in right now?
It's amazing. And, I would hate to say it, but we haven't, I don't want to say we've gotten used to it, but we've seen a lot of amazing nights from Connor over the last 9 years. It's been remarkable. And, we never want to take it for granted. That's something we talk about a lot, is making sure that we don't just sit here and just have an expectation of, oh, this is just what he does. This is what this team does. Because there's a lot of running mates with him that have had some amazing performances over the years. And, led by Connor, no question about it. His game right now, he's found it. And he went through some difficulty in the series. He's gone through some difficulty in other series where, let's face it, teams going up against Connor, they know that they have to play him really tough. They have to play him hard. They have to be in his face. They have to take away his time and space as much as they can. And they've done a great job. Florida's really good at that. But he's starting to find a way to chip away at that armor. He's starting to find a way now where he's exploding in games, finding that pace, finding those plays. And at the right time. I mean, listen, backs against the walls, you're either winning or you're going home for the summer. This is when this team plays the best, and they've showed that. But for Connor, he's rewriting history. It's really incredible. And I don't think we can say it enough about how incredible he's played and what he's doing in the modern game to be in the likes of the Mario Lemieux and the Wayne Gretzky's of the world. I mean, he is climbing ladders that only a few select players in the history of the game have climbed. And great on him. And it's not that he's not aware of it. He is, but for him, the focus is about winning. It really is. And you look at him after the press conference after Game 5. There's no elation there. It's not. He's put up 8 points in the last two games to win games four and five to stave off elimination and continue in the Stanley Cup final. And he was all about business. He was all about the next game, coming back home and winning game number 6. And you love that mentality from him because really it is destiny. It's destiny for Connor. He understands that. He's a generational player, and generational players find a way to win. They find a way to win cups, and he understands that. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that I don't think we talk about enough. And good on him. Good on him to be playing his best hockey right now when it matters the most.
I know you have one, but just quickly to follow up on that a little bit, because we got a comment in here from Ryan who said he still remembers 2015, McDavid's first practice after he came over in the draft and how crazy everything was. I remember we were talking to Brendan Perlini not that long ago, and we asked about McDavid being a captain so young, and Perlini kind of said like it was weird for guys in the room to have this kid be supposed to be looked to as a leader. And now you look at McDavid, he's going in the press conferences, he's got this calm but just confident demeanor. He said that we're going to drag him back to Alberta thing, which I absolutely loved. How have you seen McDavid kind of evolve as a leader over his career?
I've seen it similar, Tyler. For me, it's been amazing to see him grow. Like I talked about, that pressure that comes along with being the best player in the game. And I think it took him some time even to have that title. He has so much respect for the older players in the league. He has so much respect for the stars in the league that he was a fan of growing up. I mean, that's the one thing about players, the best players in the game over the course of time and history. They're the biggest fans of the game too. They're students of the game. They're the biggest fans of the game. They dissect it and study it like we do. They look at everything, and they want to be like those players. There was an article or something I saw on one of the social platforms recently about when he was 17, right before he got drafted in 2015. He was watching the Stanley Cup being handed out, and his quote, I believe, was on Insta or Twitter, but he said, it's amazing to see this happen, but at the same time, is anybody else jealous? Does it make anybody else jealous seeing these other guys holding the Stanley Cup? That kind of gives you a little insight as to what his mindset was going into not even being drafted yet. But he understood he was going to get drafted. He knew he was going to go first overall, and he was going to have an impact on an organization. And he's had an impact in the entire National Hockey League. And I think that with that comes along those lines, you have to learn to mature and grow and handle that kind of pressure. I think that's been his biggest asset. Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, the longest tenured Oiler. It's a difficult market to play in. This is a tough place. Darnell Nurse, you take the positive, you take the negative, and you go out there and you put your best foot forward and you play your best game. These guys all want to win. Every single player to a man, that's all they're thinking about. But with Connor, there comes a little extra, and he's been able to handle that. And like you mentioned, Tyler, you're seeing it now come out in a confidence where he's much more approachable. I think for me, he's more confident in that role as being the best player in the game. And it's starting to bring him out in that capacity where he's not afraid to say something from time to time that's a little edgy or a little whatever. He's not afraid to control an interview instead of just going with the punches. He'll just, turn off a question that he doesn't really want to answer. And that's all maturity and just growing. But I agree with you. Sometimes giving a captaincy to a young player like Connor maybe isn't always the right choice, but it's the choice that's maybe needed to allow him to grow into that role and grow into that leader. And we're seeing that now right in front of our faces. And that's pretty incredible.
You worked the Carolina New York series, which was in a very similar spot to what this one is now, of course. Like, what were the vibes like in that one? And do you think this series is different to what that one was?
Yeah, I thought it was a great series, and I thought it could have gone either way. It was a similar series, I would say, in the sense that Carolina, in the first 3 games, pretty much did everything I thought they could have done. They lost 2 overtime games. They could have won every game. Like, that was the way it was. And similar to Edmonton in game number 1, they should have won that game. Game number 2, you have to give to Florida. They were dominant in that game. Yeah, they had a 1-0 lead till the 9:30 something of the second period. But then once the 1-1 goal was scored by Florida, we know whose game it was. And even the Oilers understood that. They sat back a little too much. Game 3 was kind of a mixture in between of those 2 games. I felt could have gone either way, and Florida found a way from a charging Oiler team in the third period that made it a 1-goal game. But since that point in time, Edmonton's found a way to overtake and find a way to get by number one, Bobrovsky, and number two, manage the way they play. And Stuart Skinner's playing great too, which he has done when the back's up against the wall is when he plays the best as well. So similar in that regard that I think the first 3 games could have gone either way. And, 2 of them especially, the one we're going to give to Florida, and I think that's safe to say they were the much better team in game number 2. Different, though, I think, is the sense that it was a little lower scoring. It was a little lower scoring in the sense that now that we're starting to see it open up, you're starting to really see the offense come out. And that's what I thought coming into the series was you're not going to hold Edmonton to 2 goals a game. I'm sorry. No, they did that. They did that in the first 3 games. They were able to really crunch down and defend, but they haven't been able to do that in games 4 and 5. And Edmonton's found that stride. You're starting to see the big guns really come into their own. Leon Draisaitl, too, is another guy that he's going to have a game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's next game. I know he possibly is dealing with something we don't know. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's done a lot of other things. The thing I liked about him in game number 5, and I noted it many times in the game, he was backtracking, stealing pucks, and that's where when he's engaged that way, it doesn't have to be on the score sheet. And when you get to the playoff time, I know everybody wants to see the goals and see the great plays. A lot of times, those are the plays that win hockey games. Those little defensive plays, winning a 50-50 puck battle, managing a puck and being smart, not turning it over in the wrong areas. Those all become compounded and so important that sometimes we overlook those. I don't overlook those. Those are the plays to me when I look at a game. I'm like, yeah, you're winning the board battles, you're winning the positional battle, and you're making sure you're putting the puck in the right place. You have a really good opportunity to win because you have the talent and the skill to score goals when you get your chances. But, yeah, I would say those are the 2 comparisons to the series. It was a great series. I thought Carolina could have won it. They made it a series, but the Rangers just were a little too strong early on, got some timely goals in overtime. Trocheck and Panarin scored those 2 goals to go up 3-0 in the series. And again, you're fighting from behind. Any mistakes cost you, and then they found a way to finish it off in 6.
Last one we got for you. We're going to go out to our inbox because it is absolutely buzzing right now. Our inbox is brought to you by Great Clips, more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada. It is the official hair salon brand of the NHL, and your time is valuable, which is why they have the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time, check in on your phone, and get your haircut when you want. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Louie, you are getting a ton of compliments on the facial hair, by the way. People are absolutely loving that. Now
I can't shave it now, can I? I can't shave it now. I got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I'd like to show off mine, but the zoom on our camera is not that good. I'll get to this one from Hurton Albertan here. He wants to keep it simple for his inbox question. What are your keys to victory in Game 6 for the Oilers?
Yeah, the same that I've been saying all year long. I know it's cliche, and I know it's winning hockey. You got to come out and have a good start. I think you have to manage the puck early and force. I don't think Edmonton's as good of a team sitting back as they are pushing. And I think the Florida Panthers are a much better team when they're pushing than when they're sitting back. That's the difference. And when you look at the periods that Edmonton's been successful, what have they done? They've forced. They've been aggressive on the forecheck. They've gotten on the defensive Florida, and they've been able to spend a little bit more time in the offensive zone. It also, that back and forth, down and back the ice, we talk about transitional play, that starts to open up, and where Edmonton started to find some scoring. I think 7 of the 8 goals in the one game were from a rush type of situation. So for me, get your feet moving, be physical, get on pucks and win those battles. I don't think you can allow the Florida Panthers to dictate play in the offensive zone because when they do, they're a fantastic team and they're really good at it. So you have to force them to get a little out of their comfort zone and defend a little more than they want to. Not easy to do, but I think that's the game plan. If they can execute, they have a good chance of winning Game 6.
Louie, cannot thank you enough for giving us some time today, man. Always appreciate it. Enjoy Game 6. Enjoy the rest of this run and enjoy the vibes in the city.
Yeah, you too. It's going to be great.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.